All right, as promised, Danny Shimon and I are here to talk with Jackson Slater, interior offensive lineman of Sacramento State. Jackson, thanks very much for making time with us. How are you doing?
Doing well, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Great. Listen, I told you, I'll tell the audience, Danny and I are doing this we have our dream jobs. I'm the general manager of the Chicago Bears. I finally get to screw things up the way I want to screw them up. And Danny works professionally as a scout, but he's pretending now that he's working for the Chicago Bears. So we'll do 15, 20 minutes, and then maybe at the end you can tell us we were terrible or lie to us and say we were really good. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to start with the first question. Jackson, tell us just a little bit about yourself so that we can get to know you as a person.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Bellevue, Washington. Born and raised there by my mom and dad. I got a little brother as well who is a preferred walk-on at Sac State right now. Sounds like he's doing well with the new staff there. Went to Newport High School. Growing up, played baseball, football, and basketball. Played baseball and basketball till my sophomore year of high school, and then did track and field as a senior, and then obviously played football all the way through. And then, Sacramento State was my only full ride scholarship. Pretty under-recruited kid in high school, partly due to COVID, I think, partly due to just kind of being a late bloomer type of guy. Had some, non-scholarship offers and, the Ivy League and the Pioneer League, and had a couple preferred walk-on opportunities. But, and then I also had a partial offer in Washington. And then Sacramento State swooped in kind of late in the recruiting cycle and offered me a full ride. So made it a, pretty easy decision, pretty seamless, felt pretty seamless, transferring from high school to college football. Made my first start in week 4 of my freshman season, and then played every game until week 9 of this past year. So 44 consecutive starts, ton of accolades, ton of team success to go along with it. And here we are.
Before I turn over to Danny, what was it that, since you played other sports, what was it that drew you to the game of football, and how much, of a passion do you have for the game?
Yeah, I think, just early on, there was little stuff in football that was more satisfying than in baseball or basketball. Like, I was a tackle early on in high school, and, counter was my favorite play, leading around off the pulling guard. And that's where a lot of knockdowns came, when I was on C team as a freshman. So I think that's kind of when I really started to, like football over the rest of them. And, just little satisfying stuff like that, I think, is like a big reason why I love football is like, you love, making a big block and watching the running back, burst for a 40-yard run, or even just watching film and, hey, that was a good, pass protection rep or whatever. Like, I take a lot of joy in just watching the little stuff like that. So I think that's kind of where football kind of started to, become my favorite. And then, basketball, there's too much running for me. I wasn't that tall. And, baseball can become a little political at times, and kind of fell out of love with that game. So it's pretty easy to, choose football over the other ones for sure.
Yeah, speaking of pulling around and counter, coming and leading the block, looks like watching your tape, you still like that's still your favorite play when you come out and you jump out of your stance there, come around leading that and take on the edge. You look comfortable out there on the edge there when you're the lead blocker there. So, but what studying your tape, it looks like that tenacity that you play with, and then the football, the competitive toughness you have there. It just kind of jumps out for me in terms of watching you. So, would you say that football brings out a different part of you in terms of something that where you can maybe take out some of the aggression or whatnot that you would like to that comes out when I study your game, or is there like a different? So basically, is there a different Jackson Slater that when we see in between the lines, and then one we'll see like right now in this interview or outside the off the football field?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely a nicer guy off the field, more down to earth type of guy. And I think, the way I describe my playing style is I kind of just lock in, do my job. At the end of the day is, the number one goal. So, I'm not a big trash talker. Not a lot of distractions get to me. The crowd never gets to me. I'm just really focused, I think, when I get on the field and doing my job to the best of my ability.
So I know you started 44 games at Sac State, predominantly a left guard. You did a couple games at left tackle. Do you see yourself at the next level as an inside player, whether it's guard or at center? Now, center wasn't a position you play predominantly, but is there something that's something you're comfortable taking on at the next level, playing center?
Yeah, I think any of the interior positions I feel confident with. I think the Senior Bowl week, really helped me, with my confidence there and, really feeling like, hey, I can go out there and play any three interior position, right guard, left guard, or center. I feel really good at each one. Obviously playing mostly guard while at school, have a lot more experience there than at center, but in the short time I've been, taking center reps, just this past season at the Senior Bowl, I think I have a lot of potential at center and I think a lot of room to grow and a lot to learn. And that excites me. I'm ready to take on that challenge. So I think I'm comfortable at each spot, but, personally, I think center might be my best position.
And I'm watching your Sacramento State tape. It looked like there was a lot of pro formations, a lot of pro system there, quarterback under center, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
At the week of the Senior Bowl, were you comfortable when they were kind of force feeding you that offense that week? Is that something that kind of came natural to you and in terms of picking up that offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think my time at Sac State was super helpful. I think every single play we ran at the Senior Bowl, there was some version of it in the Sac State offense. So, for me, learning the playbook at the Senior Bowl was more translating it into the Sac State verbiage and, understanding it that way. Like, hey, this play is, this play we ran at Sac State. So pretty seamless there. I think, it was pretty easy to pick up and, I'm happy that, it was a easy transfer for sure.
Would you consider yourself a better fit for more of a gap scheme system, or are you open to even like a wide zone scheme system? I think your forte probably is more power going up, going forward, north and south, as opposed to going east and west.
Yeah, I think I have experience in both. I'd say Sac State was more of a zone offense, and we'd sprinkle in some gap stuff like pin and pull or power or counter. But I think I do well getting out in space, and I think that applies to both offenses. As well as working with, whoever your buddy is on a combo. So that also applies in both spaces. So I think, they're definitely different schemes, but I think they relate to each other a lot. So I'd feel confident in either one.
I noticed too when you elevate to the next level, you tend to pick out those cornerbacks. Those little guys, you crushed them. One thing I love about scouting offensive linemen is I want to see those guys finish their blocks, and that's one thing about Jackson Slater. He will finish his blocks. I didn't notice that on your tape.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the funnest blocks in football. I'd say is getting out in space and hunting down a corner or a safety or someone little that you could just go take out, especially with the rule change where they can't cut out in space. So it's pretty much a green light to just full steam ahead and lay someone out. So.
Now you came in at 6'3", about 320 with 33-inch arm length. Is that something that you were expecting to come in at, or was there a little bit off here and there, or what are your expectations in terms of size, weight, and length?
Yeah, I mean weight was kind of dead on. I wanted to be a little, I played last season at more around like 315, and wanted to play the Senior Bowl a little heavier, and figured a little weight would help. I felt good at that weight. Felt like I moved well. Always been kind of around 6'3", so that was pretty expected. But I thought I was a 32 and change guy on the arm length, so 33 flat was a nice surprise for sure.
Cool. And then I know earlier you talked about playing inside offensive line and possibly center. Is there something in terms of your game that you need to work on and get better, whether it's footwork, technique, hand placement, anything particular that going in? Maybe even something that they talk to you at the Senior Bowl in terms of coaching tips, where you have to kind of work on as you move forward here in the progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think technique's something I'm always working on. Especially coming from the FCS level. I think I got away with stuff at times, whether it be bad hand placement on a rep, or I took a bad angle and maybe saved myself just due to, my athleticism and size, comparatively at that level, where I think, I was still able to find success sometimes even without perfect technique. So, that's something I'm trying to refine and fix, is just, the little things, having consistent pass sets, getting to your spot, having the right depth, just moving well in general. That's something I'm always working on for sure.
And then going over the practice tape over at the Senior Bowl, I mean, there are a couple of nice reps you had one of those one-on-ones. That is my favorite moment in terms of every practice is the offensive defensive line one-on-one, and a couple of them, one against Walter Nolan, and then another one against R.J. Oben from Notre Dame. I think you did a really nice job. Did you find yourself gaining more and more confidence as the week went on, going up against these FBS guys or these Division I guys, and just seeing that, hey man, I can stack with these guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into it, was kind of unsure of how it was going to go, just not really seeing this level of football at a consistent basis, in my time in college. So I'd say early, kind of halfway through day one was really when I felt like, I belong with this group. My name, belongs with all these guys. And I think, my confidence kept growing throughout the week, kept stacking days, improving on the things from the day before. So, I think, I showed a lot of people that I belong, and, I think I proved to myself I belong too.
I knew you were getting cocky or not cocky, I should say, but I know you were getting confident on that third day when you brought the crop top jersey.
Oh yeah.
When I see that, typically, we've seen guys in the past, Quinn Miners, who's from Wisconsin Whitewater, went to the Broncos, good career. Cody Mock, North Dakota State. The both those guys made the crop top jersey very famous there. And I saw you rocking that third day. I'm like, all right. I'm like, Jackson Slater is getting in his groove here, and he was rocking that crop top. How did it come about? Did when the guys asked you to do it, or you just did it on your own?
No, yeah, I mean, was something I've did every day of practice throughout college. So wasn't just something I whipped out for the Senior Bowl because guys had done it in the past. But my senior year of high school is when Quinn Miners was at the Senior Bowl rocking it. So I kind of took inspiration from him. I'd say ran with it through college, and I think, one thing you learn in college is you get in a routine, you like the things that you like, and, tucking the jersey is something I like. So I've run with it. I think I'm going to keep running with it. And I think it's a good look for offensive linemen. So
Jackson, who at the Senior Bowl did you line up against and say, man, this guy can play pretty good? You want to drop a name?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole defensive line group was really good. There wasn't one guy where I was, like, oh, this guy's a scrub or anything. Like, just a really good group overall. But I think I struggled the most with probably Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. He was my first couple one-on-one reps. I don't think I really had the confidence I had later in the week. Didn't have great footwork, didn't use my hands great. So struggled with him early on, kind of settled in later. And, I think me and Walter Nolan had some good battles too. It was really fun going against, a player of his caliber, and, was some good work for sure.
Who's the biggest trash talker of those guys?
I don't really know. I mean, I think a lot of guys, if you talk back to them, they're going to talk to you. And I don't remember even someone talking trash to me at one point. And usually I'm a silent guy, so I didn't deal with any trash talk. But I feel like every position on defense is always talking some kind of trash at one point or another. So.
Hey, at college, your first 2 years, lots of success. Then what brought you back to your senior year? You were coming off of some very successful seasons, and you played 9 games, and you had a knee injury. So what brought you back to college? And tell us a little bit about the injury you had.
Yeah, so I think a big thing for me is, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So obviously had a ton of success at Sac State. Was able to play for the same offensive line coach all 4 years. I think I had a good thing going. The NFL talk was kind of starting, at that point when I was kind of thinking about the transfer portal. And, at the end of the day, the NFL was my goal, not, playing at a Big Ten school for a year or something. And then I also think I kind of felt a sense of pride in finishing my career as a Hornet. I think I'd done a lot of great things in my career, had a lot of success, and I think I would have regretted it if I didn't go out a Hornet and finish out my career strong. Obviously, had a lot of accolades this past year to go along with it and kind of cap off my career as a Hornet. And then, yeah, towards the end of the year, week 9, had an MCL injury. So I think they classified it as a grade 2, but it was closer to a grade 3 than a grade 2. So pretty close to a full tear, but, got super lucky. My meniscus was fine. Patellar tendon was fine. And, MCL injuries are usually non-surgical. So there's enough blood flow in that area, I guess, to where it like reattaches itself and usually fully heals on its own. And I was worried about being able to play in an all-star game, but felt healthy, probably since early January. Felt healthy at the game. I think, there was nothing that hindered my performance there. So, I feel confident in it moving forward. But yeah, I mean, unfortunate way to end my career for sure.
Is there an offensive lineman currently in NFL or past, that you've kind of watched tape, you've watched their their technique, and you kind of, if you, I don't want to say mirror, but that's the kind of player you're looking to kind of become at the next level?
Yeah, I mean, Jason Kelsey's one that comes to mind. I feel like he's a bit of like an anomaly though. So the one I've watched the most, it was, watched his senior year of college, was Mason McCormick. Was a 4th round guy last year to Pittsburgh. Played a lot this past season as well. But yeah, I mean, just another guy from the small school level that, had success in an all-star game, had a good draft process. And, as a guy I kind of looked up to moving forward into my senior year and throughout this process. So watched a ton of him before playing my senior year because I was like, hey, this guy, probably did 1 or 2 things right if he's going in the 4th round from a smaller school. So watched every game of South Dakota State we had. Just, a really vicious player, I'd say, always looking for work, has a lot of great blocks on the move. And I think that's kind of what I tried to emulate this past year. And, I think I did it well. So
I concur. Mason McCormick was a guy I loved coming out last year. South Dakota, State Jackrabbit, like you mentioned, a guy like to finish his blocks. I talked about earlier. You like to finish your blocks. Again, like a guy who's physical at the point of attack. Same thing I see with you as well. That's a great comparison. That's the one guy this scout pounded the table for last year, and this GM right here, you're looking at there, ignored him.
Yeah. I did ignore him. Yeah. It's funny that you say Jason Kelsey because visually you look a bit like him and body type and so forth. And then when I saw this video that you posted on your X channel, let's take a look at it. It's 15 seconds long. I said, guy reminds me of Jason Kelsey. Awesome. I'm fired up.
Lineman right there.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I expected you to grab a couple cans of beer and just spray them all over yourself as you're walking out. That was good. Tell us what was going on there and why that was a special moment for you.
Yeah, so that was me power cleaning 405. Had been chasing it for, probably a couple of years until that point. And, that was the challenge my strength coach, Coach Morris, he gave me that challenge going into, spring workouts was, you got to hit 405. I think you can do it. And, that was probably definitely, the pride of my, weightlifting, I would say. And, I think if you can power clean a lot, you're probably a pretty good football player too. So, just was super excited. I get pretty pumped when I achieve a goal. So that was, on display right there for sure.
Absolutely. What do you like to do in your free time?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like a nerdy guy in my free time. So I collect sports cards. I build, Star Wars Legos.
Awesome.
I'm a, Marvel, Star Wars, DC fan. A lot of my buddies in college, kind of shared similar hobbies as well. So we'd go watch, the newest Marvel movie or whatever's coming out. And, so it's fun, pretty relaxing, building a Lego or something. And I think, it takes my mind off everything else going on for sure.
No riding on the hood with machine guns in the car and stuff like that. None of that. Okay. We'll forgive you for that. I saw in a news report that you are training in Arizona at a place called Exos. Tell us a little bit about your training there, what your schedule is, the combine coming up, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a really good experience. Been here since early January. They've been helping me recover my knee as well as prepare for everything. Combine, prepared for the Senior Bowl. So just a ton of weightlifting, ton of running. 40-yard prep, bench prep. Kind of just the nuts and bolts of combine preparation that you see at a ton of gyms across the nation. But these guys make it really easy. You just got to come in, do your work, eat the food, and you should have success. And it's been a good experience so far.
It is about 25 degrees here in Chicago. I think we're going to get 6 inches of snow by the end of the night. Could you deal with cold weather and playing a football game on the frozen tundra and dealing with the environment?
Yeah, I think I play my best football in the cold, to be honest, from Washington originally. So it can still get pretty cold out there as well. And I think some of my best games in college were when it was, colder rather than hotter. I think I've had experience in all kinds of weather and never played a snow game, but, hoping that comes at some point for sure.
Cool.
Talking about you may possibly moving inside of playing center. Have you ever snapped before and even had a shotgun either as well?
Yeah, I mean, so did at the Senior Bowl. And then, this whole past season was essentially the second string center for Sac State, dealt with some injuries early on. And, there was talks that I might move to center full time. But, I think the kind of consensus was I, did a lot for the offense, getting out in space and stuff at guard. So was best to keep me there. But, still came with, taking center reps like a second string center as well. So, was doing it every practice before every game as much as I could while, still being able to play guard at a high level. So I've had a lot of experience there. I have a lot of confidence in my snapping ability. I think, for me, it's more just getting comfortable with, the timing and the body position stuff that's different at center compared to guard. So,
Ben Johnson couldn't be here, so we'll send them the tape of this interview. But he is, of course, the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. What do you know about him, the offense that he ran with the Detroit Lions as offensive coordinator last 2-3 seasons? What do you know about him, and how would you like to play for a guy like Ben Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, don't know a ton. Haven't done a whole lot of research on, the different offenses different teams use. But, obviously had a lot of success in Detroit. Obviously, there's a reason why he's getting a head coaching job. Wish the best for him and, hope he has success in Chicago as well, for sure.
You ever thrown a pass in a game?
No, but, I got an arm, played baseball. I was a pitcher. I can sling it for sure. So
More importantly, have you ever caught a pass in a game?
Never caught a passing game, but when I started playing football, I did flag football and thought I was the next Rob Gronkowski. So,
one final one for me would be just the protections at Sac State. Were you heavily involved in calling out, identifying the protections, or was it all done from the coaching staff, or how did that work there in college?
Yeah, so I mean, it was generally done by the interior guys. I'd say our center had a lot of dictation over what we were doing, but I was just as much involved as our center was. So I mean, typically our coaches would call the protections, but we'd call it the points. We'd sort it out ourselves, obviously, and then depending on the look, usually we kind of had free reign to flip it if it was an empty protection versus a 6-man or a 7-man, and kind of flip the direction of the slide. But I wouldn't say it happened a ton this past year, and but yeah, so generally came from the coaches, but depending on the game plan or certain situations, we were able to flip the slide for sure. So,
did you grow up rooting for the Seahawks?
Yeah, grew up a Seahawks fan, but going into this process, I'm definitely very indifferent about everything. I'm excited to go play for whoever wants to play for them. So
All rights to check, right?
Yeah, right, for sure.
Did you get 76 because of Steve Hutchinson? Is that why you wear 76?
No, I wear 76. That's a good guess, but my dad wore 76 when he played. He played college football for Western Washington University, and he wore 76, so I wanted to wear 76 too. So
awesome.
Football in the bloodlines. I know a lot of scouts really like to see that in the prospects that they talk to. Listen, This has been fun getting to know you, sharing a little bit about you with our audience. We told you that Danny and I were doing a little pretend game, so why don't you evaluate us and give us a grade if you don't mind.
Yeah, I thought you guys did a good job. Really, I'd probably give you guys a B plus. Had me talk about my background. Talk some ball, kind of see how much I knew about football. Quiz me on the new Bears staff, which I probably failed, but I thought you guys did a good job. So pretty similar to everything I've done so far, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact that you're not familiar with this Bear staff. I mean, us in Chicago, we're not familiar with them either. They still don't have their entire staff. But what I like about it with you is that you're coming in with an open mind. You're probably going to make judgments on people based on how they coach you, how they behave, and so forth. How do you like to be coached? Do you like the John Gruden type?
Bullshit!
Or do you prefer a more laid back guy like Danny?
Yeah, I think I've had coaches that coach both ways for sure. I think as long as the job's getting done and getting done at a high level, it doesn't matter. I think I respond well to both of them. The big thing for me is if you're gonna rip us, also be sure you're teaching us how to do it correctly as well. I'm ready to learn from anyone, and I think I can respond to any coaching style well. And I have in the past, and I don't think it's going to change. So
he's an offensive lineman. He's used to F-bombs. I mean, that's how it rolls.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to hear you say that because we just came off a season where the offensive coordinator has been criticized during the season and now postseason as not kind of following through and letting players get away with things. And so the culture in the locker room wasn't what it should be and so forth. So if you do become a Chicago Bear, we'd be pulling for you every single day and also hoping that you help to change the culture and be a mean SOB and get the job done.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. Get the job done for sure.
All right, Jackson, we'll let you go. Thank you very much for spending about a half hour with us. And again, good luck in the future, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Good luck, man.
So what do you think, Danny?
Yeah, like I said, I put on his tape, and this is definitely a guy that at the Senior Bowl going in, I hadn't heard anything of him. I haven't been watching any Sacramento State tape, and then the first couple of days, like he mentioned, the early part of the week, there was a lot of getting used to the jump in talent, but man, that second and third day, you saw this kid pick up. You're going up against some of these Division I guys, Walter Nolan, RJ Open, a couple of guys we just named here, and like I said, third day I saw him come out rocking that crop top, and that's the guy's got confidence, right? And you could see it pick up in his play. In a one-on-one drills that I love to watch, like I mentioned, and also in the team stuff where you see him getting up and elevating to the next level. Now, at the Senior Bowl, he couldn't finish the blocks, but you see him in his ability to get out, elevate, and get to that run fit. But you put on a Sacramento State tape, you see the aggression, you see the physicality he plays with. I watching his tape, I do agree. I think center is probably the best position for him. I just didn't know if he had that background. It didn't look like he did, but he said he did have it with the backup center, and he's snapped before. So I think that's where you're going to be looking at Jackson Slater at the next level. Is going to be a center. And again, 6'3", 320. This guy is a guy that moves guys at the line of scrimmage. I think that's a perfect place for him at the next level. I think he fits nicely with what I assume is going to be a more, stout, more physical at the point of attack kind of offensive line that Ben Johnson will be bringing here to Chicago this season. So I think he fits in nicely.
Yeah, prior to the interview, I did a little research and read some scouting reports on him. One actually has him potentially going in day 2, depending on what happens in the combine. That might be a little too rich, I think, especially for the Bears. But he's definitely going to get drafted, in my opinion, based on just the results at the Senior Bowl. And I think that as part of this broadcast, one of the main topics is that the Bears' offensive line is in disarray. It is in really bad shape. When you take into effect what we saw Sunday in the Super Bowl, and the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles and what they did for that run game and how they dominated the line on both sides, and you look at the Chicago Bears offensive line, the defensive line needs work, but the offensive line definitely needs work. So the solution is that you've got to hit big. You got to hit big on a day one pick, or 2 day 2 picks. And then on day 3, you got to hit again. And if you can find a Slater in round 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, and he comes in here and he shows that he's a great developmental player, or he can play immediately, that is going to be huge for this team.
Yeah.
Do you see him as a day 3 pick, or do you think he could jump into day 2?
Right now, he's a day 3 pick for me. I think he took himself from a guy who might have been a priority free agent to now a guy that's going to probably go in the third, day 3. Like I said, I see more like a fifth round, 6th round, something like that. But we'll see how it goes. If he continues to impress at the next level at the combine, in his team meetings and all that stuff, I think you'll see this kid maybe jump up. But yeah, day 3 is where I got him at. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna want to bring in these young guys. And you talked about the offensive line at what the Eagles did. I mean, look at what the Chiefs offense line didn't do for Mahomes, and it made him look like someone that looked like he was lost. He had his first half numbers were comparable to Rex Grossman Super Bowl numbers. That's how bad Patrick Mahomes. This is a guy that people are comparing to Tom Brady as the GOAT, right? So that just goes to show you that no matter how great a quarterback or receiver or you have or tight ends, you need to have that foundation up front in the offensive line. And the Eagles just whooped the Chiefs offensive line badly and made Mahomes look immortal. Make it look like a normal human being. Not like someone that's on a trajectory to go to the Hall of Fame. So that's how important it is to secure your offense and defensive lines. And I think that's where the Bears should concentrate. Both in free agency and the draft. And a young kid like Jackson Slater, I told you, is a guy, like you said, developmental prospect. Bring him in, develop him, get him stronger, get him bigger, and get him in your offensive line room. Groom him, and then eventually he could take over and become maybe a starter, or at the worst case scenario, he's a quality backup.
There's one other thing in the scouting reports that I wanted to get your thought on. One of them offered this criticism of him, saying that his lateral quickness was not at that kind of NFL pro elite NFL level. Do you agree with that assessment? And if so, is that something that a player can train to improve that lateral quickness so that he can be better prepared to play in the NFL level?
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes right now. Lateral agility is one of the things that stuck out to me, his lack of lateral agility. And that just means moving east and west. And that's why I see him more in a confined area like center. He played predominantly at left guard, a couple of games at left tackle, but he was more of a guy that would play left guard, but you could saw him kind of struggle with quickness and speed. So I think you put him inside, you can kind of mask some of that lack of agility. But he's an athletic guy in terms of we played 3 sports in high school. He's a guy who can go north and south, and he can bring some power behind there as well. Brings his drives his feet, gets guys off the line of scrimmage. I think that's where his strengths are going to be. And again, when you ask him to get up and pull, gets up and he's quick out of his stance, comes around the edge, and he's a guy that finds an edge defender, and he'll set the edge, and he'll those kick out blocks and everything like that. So yeah, I wouldn't ask him to do anything in terms of athletically, playing tackle, guard, or anything like that. I think center would be an area where he's confined. He's got protection on either side of himself. I think that's where he's going to be better off. That's where I put him down here as a center at the next level in my projections. But in terms of improving his lateral quickness, you can make some adjustments, but some improvement. But that's just athletic ability, natural God-given athletic ability. If you have it, you don't have it. How much better can you get? Can you get to the point where now you're taking on NFL caliber athletes? That'll be a little bit tough. But if you can put the player in a situation where his weaknesses aren't magnified and is not sticking out, to me, center would be the spot for a kid like Jackson Slater. I think that's where you could see success there.
These are the metrics that he posted over at the Senior Bowl, 6'2.5", 320 pounds. The hand, I was going to ask him to hold up his hands probably better than I did. 33-inch arms, and that wingspan is at 78. Anything stick out there that you want to comment on?
No, I know he mentioned the arm length. He was a little bit shocked where that came out at 33, but yeah, I mean that for typically that's typically guard level arm length. But I think at center that's more than enough. Even if he's sub 33, I think at center that's more than enough. So I think we'll see what his actual measurements are at the combine, because those are the official ones that go into the record book. So we'll see how it comes out there. But yeah, I mean in terms of that size, that length, I think that's perfect for inside. And we talked about at least I've talked about I think this next version of the offensive line under Ben Johnson is going to be more of that strong, move guys at the line of scrimmage, more physicality at the point of attack. We'll see some more pulling. We'll see some more traps, so on and so forth. We'll see inside zone. We see some outside zone as well. But I think as opposed to what we've seen previous years, the 270 pound to 290 pound, center, the lightweight athletic center, I think those days are gone. I think we're going to see guys, kind of like Jackson Slater, 6'3", 320 plus ability to move guys at the point of attack is what we're going to be kind of seeing here and featuring on this offensive line. At least that's what my, watching the Detroit Lions tape, that's what I'm projecting and looking forward and scouting for the Bears this upcoming draft.
I know we've talked about this before, but I want to ask you again for this audience that's watching. The Bears have the number 10 overall slot. It doesn't seem like there's an offensive lineman who is really number 10 value. So would you look at trading down if you got an offer to go down to 14, 15, 16, thereabouts, so that you can stack up a third second rounder and really help to replenish the offensive and defensive line?
I would. And unless there's a defensive guy, whether it's an edge guy or interior defensive lineman that sticks out to me, Mason Graham, a Michael Williams, someone like that, like that just is raves top 10. And do I go ahead and drop down and miss out on those guys where it fills a need? It's not the offensive line, but defensive tackle and edge guys are also needs here as well. And the other thing you got to take a look at, I've said it before, picks 20th or 70 is the meat of this draft, So I think interior offensive linemen are guys you can get in that second round, and I think as we go through the process here, there's a bunch of guys that I've already identified and have kind of marked down, and I'll be giving you guys scouting reports on some of these interior offensive linemen that they can get with those second round picks, maybe even a third round pick, then come in and fortify if you happen to pass on an offensive lineman at number 10, or if you trade down in this scenario and get a different player.
One more, and I promise I'll let you go. Darnell Wright, right tackle. You've introduced the idea, and I haven't heard many people talk about this. In fact, I haven't heard anybody talk about it recently, about potentially moving Darnell Wright inside because you think that he will be better at the guard position. You were right about Tevin Jenkins. When he was drafted, you said absolutely not. He cannot play tackle. His best position is at guard. That was proven correct. So if you're right about Darnell Wright, what do you do at right tackle?
Well, with right tackle, what you could do is you could either get a veteran, a stopgap veteran for a 1 year, 2 year deal, draft a guy in the second or third round, have him sit back there, develop, and you can plug him in next year or year after that, and then have him start a right tackle. Or because for me, if Tevin Jenkins, Darnell Wright is a good right tackle, right? I think he could be a Pro Bowl caliber right guard, and that's where I say I can say you can help solidify that spot. But the other thing is you don't want to take the right tackle and make it weak and then just to solidify right guard. So you're going to have options. So for me, if you bring in a veteran and he plays right tackle, you can kick in Darnell Wright to right guard. And now you have a nice formation there on your right side. But all in the stopgap term, you can also go, hey, let's bring in a veteran, like I said, Kevin Zeitler, who's got experience with Detroit. He's up there in age, he's about 35 years old, played right guard, played very well last year for Penn Johnson and the Lions. You could bring him in, plug him in at right guard, draft a developmental right tackle in the second or third round, have him sit for a year, and then when Zeitler's ready to leave after a year or two, kick Darnell right inside the guard, plug in your developmental right tackle, and now you're set there as well. So a number of different ways you can go and you can address this. But yeah, for me, Darnell Wright's a good right tackle, but I think he has a chance to be a Pro Bowl right guard.
And that's what this team needs. This is what I've been preaching now for the past several months. We're in dire need of Pro Bowl, all pro caliber players. And if it takes a position change and then finding a remedy for that position that player is leaving, so be it. Want the absolute best out of the players. Danny, it's been fun. It's been fun getting to know Jackson Slater and fun talking to you. You and I will be back here in about 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Yep, right before the combine starts. Preview the scouting combine.
Looking forward to that.